Viva. So the COVID theories that we were all talking about, they're actually reality right now.
Well, you know, speaking of culture and mission statements, the mission statement at Viva Frei is just to put on blast the truth and these mother effers who need to go to jail.
He's the main one. He's the main one.
So it just, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in the news cycle. It's tough to keep up. They just
pardon this.
Pardons,
martial law,
layoffs, martial law in South Korea, and this
CEO shot in front of the Hilton in New York.
Well, that I haven't even gotten to that one yet. I mean, I'm going to look into that, but
this just in.
No, so just this select report committee just drops, and it's a massive 500-page plus document from the select subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic that they've been researching, investigating, looking into for it was started in February 2023. And they just, you know, discreetly disclosed this report. It's unreadable because it's too massive, it's too voluminous. But you get, I skimmed through it and I got an AI summary and whatever, but you skim through the executive summary and the table of contents, and it's mind-blowing that it confirms basically each and every theory that was written off as anti-vax conspiracy theory from the get-go. We're going to start with one video, which is going to be Rand Paul. That's Ron Paul.
That's Rand.
Rand Paul.
Rand.
It's Paul. It's Senator Paul, the younger Paul. Asking a question to Fauci, because you do remember back in the day, you couldn't say when you were self-censoring on YouTube that it originated in a lab in Wuhan, China.
Yeah, of course.
Conspiracy theory. Racist, by the way.
Racist. And
New York Times article.
Yeah.
You couldn't say that it was the result of gain-of-function research.
Because it came from China.
China. No, well, watch it. Let's refresh everybody's memory about Fauci totally not lying under oath to Congress.
Okay.
Roll the tape. If
Roll
I
it.
can. I'll pull a Keemstar. Roll it.
Rat.
Viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. This research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH failed to recognize this, defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as the Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. E. Bright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research, done entirely in Wuhan.
Listen to what Fauci
for which
said.
there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement.
Listen to what
this paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So
let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying
you
that's
take
not
a virus and make it more transmissible.
Correct.
What do you call that?
And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially.
Oh, say it officially.
You do not know.
Look at he's looking at his Democrats.
You don't know what you're talking about. Look, just because we gamed its functions to be more transmissible, to go from animals to human, doesn't mean it's gain. It is gain of function.
By definition.
By definition. Yeah. But you're going to see it's one of the 10 or 11 points in this executive summary that it was. And now you're going to go from Fauci being, I think he was head of NIH, to now Jay Bhattacharya being appointed to lead the NIH. And you're going to go from a pathological liar lying under oath to people discovering the truth, which is now being slowly leaked out, or not leaked, but disclosed to the public to make it more palatable so that they don't get shocked when it comes out altogether and say, well, we told you about this a little while ago.
And it's important to translate for the audience real quick. Gain of function is a word no one had heard before COVID. Gain of function research is the development of bioweapons by our covert military industrial complex.
Wow.
That is it's the point of gain of function research is take regular viruses and make them into deadly super viruses that can infect humans, can spread. And
like put them on steroids, basically.
Yeah.
But allow them to be transmitted from animals to humans, because it's not always, when they make that jump in nature, there's other evolution going on. When they make that jump as a result of splicing together whatever they do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no natural immunity to that. That's when it becomes a very
And
serious
there's
thing. And
no version of this that is good for us. There's no gain of function that makes us
gives us a
healthier
gain.
or happier.
No, but they've got to do it in order to develop the vaccine should the enemies do it. And by the way, when they say the pause on gain of function, that's because it was rendered illegal in America. And so they outsourced it to China. And frickin' Fauci knew about it.
Yep.
And frickin' Fauci lied about it. We'll play one more refresher of memories of people who need to go to jail.
This guy?
Because we're talking about, remember during the COVID pandemic, the response. They locked down children. They shut down schools. They
put masks on these little
They
kids.
put masks, quarantine, all this stuff. And at the time, because people are young enough to remember the Great Barrington Declaration written by a bunch of heretics, crazy doctors, they said, this is going to do more harm than good. Well, the select subcommittee's report comes out and says it did more harm than good. Yeah. But listen to what's his face here? Satan
public enemy
incarnate,
number 2.
Bill Gates talk about the impacts of shutting kids out of school. But don't worry, it won't impact his kids because they're in private school.
Go ahead.
About, for example, school shutdowns. To this day, there's still arguments about how many cases that avoided. It's pretty clear because young people don't get sick from the disease very often.
Then why
that
jab
we
them?
Probably, if we knew everything we know today, we would have shut schools down a lot less than we did during this pandemic. I mean, yes, it's tricky for the elder adults. It's tricky in a lot of ways.
And
but
you mean by that high school and under?
Exactly. For college, going virtual tends to work awfully well. The infection levels are a little higher as you get up into that age group.
I was just
K
gonna
through
say,
12,
gave him
The CIA gave him
learning
Wait,
deficit
listen to this part. This is the
that will take us a long time to erase that. And sadly, it's a deficit where the inner city is where
minorities.
it's almost 2 years. Suburban schools less, private schools in some cases, like my kids, almost no deficit at all.
Yeah, because
very,
they're
very
Hawaiian.
fortunate,
I'm
very
the
fortunate.
frog, and I'm a demon.
Can I bring a point up about this that is especially sick? Like, I mean, I love older people, but the way they handle the pandemic, for them to, like, if you're 60, 70, 80 with comorbidities,
stay home.
They handled everything. Like, they destroyed, like, children's life. They will never get back those years, the most important years in your life. And if you see the charts, all right, kids less than 20, like, it was less than 1%. Anyone under 20 had a less than 1% chance. Like, was more likely to get in a car accident going to school. And they locked them all up.
All by design.
Yeah. Under 35, it was like minimal. Until like 65, the chance of you dying from it, like, they were minimal. But what do we have? We have a ruling class that is all of them are over 65, so they make the rules for them. And who's gonna pay back for this? Like, this just like is
and a couple things. First of all, the WHO with who's the lead? That guy, Tedros, whatever.
a communist.
Communist? I don't want any of these people in charge of anything that has to do with our health. Who gave Bill Gates the authority? By the way, you make computers. Who the hell gave him the thumbs up? You mentioned the CIA.
Jeffrey Epstein did.
How did that happen?
Well, Jeffrey Epstein, the CIA, all these covert groups, they're very interested in technocratic authoritarianism and in developing technological ways to come into our freedoms, to observe us, surveil us, to monitor us. And so COVID brought in a whole bunch of, health monitoring, health data, tracking, all sorts of, it started to normalize all these things that we did not used to be comfortable with. In the same way that the Patriot Act, 9/11 gave precedent for all these new types of surveillance. And Jeffrey Epstein, a lot of people talk about the sex trafficking, but not a lot of people talk about his huge investments and interest in mostly Israeli, but just in tech startups in general, like Carbine 911. A lot of tech startups, like Peter Thiel type startups that are interested in pre-crime and in predictive policing and all these surveillance technologies. And COVID, and I'm not saying that Jeffrey Epstein was in charge of COVID. I'm just making a joke about Jeffrey and Bill Gates. But like, you over and over, you see the people that are in charge of the responses to things like this just happen to also be aligned with this sort of like deep state technocratic sort of one world government, WHO, WEF groups.
Oh.
You cannot disagree with that, unfortunately. But
No, you can't, because it's true.
no, and now wait until we get into what was confirmed in the executive summary and fleshed out in detail on this. We could skip over the tweet and just go to the first page of that letter here. Go, if you can bring up the first page, and we'll go through these one by one.
Go ahead.
And you're just going to understand we were lied to all along. But they knew. It's not that they didn't know, because people were saying these things from the get-go. I have to take my glasses off so I can read this, because I'm an old man. Here, number 1 on the list. By the way, it's the guy who authored this is a doctor, Brad Wenstrup.
Okay.
He's a doctor, a podiatrist, not a pediatrician. Not a pediatrician.
Isn't that foot doctor?
Yes, it's a foot doctor, but he's a doctor, and he headed up the subcommittee. They go over how many people they did depositions, they wrote investigative letters. I'm just going to read what they now confirm in this letter. The first thing they say is the possibility that COVID, by the way, bipartisan consensus of this bipartisan committee agree on these findings. The possibility that COVID emerged because of a laboratory or research-related accident is not a conspiracy theory. Number 1, people were deplatformed in 2020 for saying that. Eco Health Alliance and Peter Drazak, doctor, should never again receive taxpayer dollars. That's an easy one. Scientific messaging must be clear, concise, backed by evidentiary support, and come from trusted experts such as frontline doctors treating patients. Why is this one so offensive? Because they banned medications that doctors, practitioners were prescribing to their patients.
Joe Rogan, was he?
Extremely safe medication.
Extremely safe. World class.
Ivermectin is safer than ibuprofen, according to every doctor.
The miracle drug. They banned doctors from prescribing it. They took away their licenses. They prohibited pharmacists from filling those prescriptions. Yeah. But now they're saying, oh, we should have been listening to them because that's how medicine is practiced. It's a practice like law on an individual basis between the professional and their patient or client, not top-down directions. Ban HCQ, ban ivermectin. All right, let's keep going here because it gets even better. Public health officials must work to regain America's trust. Americans want to be educated, not indoctrinated. This is coming from the letter from the Select Subcommittee, bipartisan consensus. It gets even better. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo participated in medical malpractice and publicly covered up the total number of nursing home fatalities in New York.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. You know who else did that, by the way? And I can give you... Gretchen Whitmer did the same thing.
Yeah.
Forcing nursing homes to...
Really?
Whoa. It's a total cool whip.
Whoa.
Forcing these nursing homes to take in COVID-positive patients, which ravaged nursing homes. 80% of the deaths and illnesses were gravitating around nursing homes. Yeah. In Cuomo's case, he immunized the executives before requiring them to take COVID-positive patients back in, then covered it up. That's called covering up murder. Yep. In no uncertain terms. It gets better. It gets better. Then you got some other ones here where they say the U.S. National Institute of Health funded gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The Chinese government, agencies within the U.S. government, and some members of the international scientific community sought to cover up facts concerning the origins of the pandemic. Go back to Tetrahedros, whatever the hell his name is. The WHO. Yeah. These globalist institutions, unelected globalist institutions that were dictating policy at a national level that was killing people and crippling children were responsible for covering up the fact that it originated from China.
Nancy Pelosi walking around Chinatown. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Like, no, calm, it's safe. No, but and I want you to finish that.
Yeah, okay. I have something. No, I like the next one that's not circled in red.
But there's a good reason for that. Operation Warp Speed.
Show the chart. Every time you bring
it up, we'll do that. You know what we'll do now because it's the only one I didn't because it required such an explanation. Operation Warp Speed was a tremendous success and a model to build upon in the future. The vaccines, which are now probably better characterized as therapeutics. Undoubtedly saved millions of lives by diminishing the likelihood of severity of disease and death. Let's just pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Or reducing the duration of a viral infection, unlike Joe Biden, who said, "Get the vaccine. You won't get sick."
Same as Rachel Maddow.
It is. What's even worse is that back in the day, if you referred to it as a therapeutic, they called you an anti-vaxxer. There were fact checks saying, no, it's not a therapeutic. It's a vaccine, even though it doesn't prevent contracting or transmitting the virus. They changed the definition of vaccine so that this would be qualified as a vaccine under the new definition that basically defines it as a therapeutic. What really pisses me off is the kissing the ass of Operation Warp Speed. It wasn't a tremendous success. It was bastardized. It was weaponized. Whether or not the jab saved millions of lives, if it saved millions of lives, potentially, but then eliminated years, if not decades, from young men who got it and contracted whatever illness.
And is now causing DNA damage and DNA. Do you know about the studies with DNA?
Yes,
They're finding DNA particles. Like,
I've
questions out.
I've had Jessica Rose on, PhD, a number of times on my channel. She went over this in detail. But the bottom, look, it's what's the word? Statistics. Oh, it saved millions of lives. If it killed more and if it removed more life years than it saved, it's not a success. Operation Warp Speed was never supposed to be a one-size-fits-all vaccine for kids who don't have any real risk of contracting it, even according to, what's his face? Bill Gates. But scientist Bill Gates. Then we'll run through the rest. Rampant fraud, economic side of this. Rampant fraud, waste, and abuse plagued COVID-19 pandemic response. No shit, Sherlock. Pandemic-era school closures will have an enduring impact on generations of America's children, and these closures were enabled by groups meant to serve those children. I don't want to name any one person in particular. What's her name? Weinstock? Weinstein? The head of the teachers union. Weingarten. Weingarten. These unions that were there to protect and educate children were covering their own asses out of fear, of an exaggerated fear of an illness, and damaged the generation of children they were supposed to teach, treat, and protect.
Yeah, go. I want you to finish.
Yeah, last
mind you, all by design, but go ahead.
The Constitution, and some of us have been saying this from the beginning, does not include a virus exception. That's not what it says. It says the Constitution cannot be suspended in times of crisis, and restrictions on freedoms sow distrust in public health. And the last one, the prescription cannot be worse than the disease, such as strict and overly broad lockdowns that led to predictable and anguish and avoidable consequences.
Avoidable consequences go back to item 5 above.
Yeah, and okay, so hearing all of that, and follow me for a second.
It makes me want to personally lock mother effers up in jail, because predictable and avoidable means they knew at the time, they concealed it knowingly, because that's part of one of the messages.
Of course.
Propaganda, censorship, and the technocracy suppression of any form of free speech and demonized.
So, and just from, we get it, from the CIA, from JFK to where we are, just watching what they've done this past 4 years. When I hear that, I go all the way back to the timing. Okay, so the lab that was opened under who? Was it under Obama in Wuhan? So think about the timing. Trump is a shoo-in to win again. All of a sudden, like, I'm talking about all facets. This thing comes out of a lab that we own, and in lockstep, Fauci's already in there. He's a part of these freaking people. It's almost as if it was planned to go exactly, because think about what they got. They got lockdowns. They got to tell you what to do because they love doing that shit.
Mail-in voting.
Mail-in voting. That's how they stole it.
Listen to all these things. And for people to be like, you're out of your mind. No, you're ignorant and you're foolish for not thinking that this could all happen on accident. Besides that, then they have this drug that comes out that everybody has to take. They lockstep tell pharmaceuticals, you can't, ivermectin, it's a horse thing. It's a horse dewormer. Color Joe Rogan's face.
Painted Joe Rogan.
They painted him like green.
Yeah.
And then look about that. And now they have immunity over that thing. Fauci has freaking protection from the CIA, from the Secret Service for the rest of his life. All the stuff that you said, everything, in my opinion, was all set up from the beginning to where they are right now, and they all have immunity.
You didn't even mention George Floyd and the BLM riots, which were also not organic.
Because then you're allowed.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because
to foment more tension, to foment more division, to foment more chaos.
Because here's the thing. And so you mean to tell me, great point, in this past 4 years, no cops have shot or killed an innocent black person?
No.
Bull
they've
crap.
tried.
You just haven't seen it on mainstream media. It's happened. White people have been getting murdered by cops. Black people, where is it? Where's the footage? All of a sudden, for 4 years, not one cop killed a black
They're all
person?
saints.
They're all saints all of a
Do you
sudden.
remember the article in the New York Times when there was a BLM protest? And this is the headline. Are protests dangerous? What experts say may depend on who's protesting.
Give me a
what.
freaking break, bro.
But the fact that you could not even mention the China connection when
You still, they still haven't definitively said, we know it came from China. We know
that's
it.
my question for Viva. What does it mean practically? You know how many times I've done, because YouTube has a sensitivity training. Every time you break this rule,
Sensitivity.
I've done it 11 times.
So you're very sensitive. You're very sensitive.
I've done because whenever you get a strike for this, I've done it 11 times. I can do it in my sleep. What does this mean? Does it mean that I don't have to take sensitivity
it
training
means
anymore?
that the platforms...
Is this enforceable?
It means that the platforms partook in censorship and disinformation. It means that the government did. It means that the media did. It means that they need to be held accountable. And I do believe this is sort of
doing it?
Well, I mean, this is a first step right now. Everything in there, just to understand, they confirmed everything that was called a conspiracy theory that people were deplatformed for, demonized for, censored.
And the damage is done. The damage is done.
A generation of children now that are going to have lasting learning deficits.
Oh, 100% reading, communication, whatever. Why did they leave natural immunity out of this?
That's a good question. I mean, it's maybe that one's.
And the dancing. Oh my God.
No, I had the Fauci where he was talking about natural immunity, but it was sort of not related to that list. But the bottom line, they've confirmed their own criminality. And now the only question is anybody actually going to be held to account?
Nuremberg 2.0, please.
And all that you said, that I said from the beginning of 2016, all that stuff. If this was a movie, you know what you would say? Oh, yeah, that Fauci guy, all these guys, they're all in on it. And Tom, just off of your story, breaking news, the United Healthcare shooter reportedly used a suppressor on his pistol. That's not a vagrant homeless guy.
Look at the picture of him.
A suppressor. That means it was a hit in New York.
Look at the picture. It was a pro hit.
Yeah. Oh, my God. So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.